Alright, this is a how-to on working with audio, spoken audio specifically, using Audacity, which is free. What I'm going to be showing you is how to trim a church sermon, although you could use the same technique for working with almost any other spoken audio. What I do here is, after every Sunday service, we record the sermon and we upload it to the internet so that people can listen to it later on. And this is all very simple to do in reality, and I'm going to assume you've used Audacity before, although if you watch closely, and I will be explaining what I do as I go along, you'll be able to pick up a couple of Audacity skills as you go along. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so we've got Audacity open here, and we just drag and drop our file in, and Audacity will load it. Quick note here, I'm going to drop a couple of these as we go. It's always a good idea to keep a separate copy of your original file. So remember, you're going to be bringing the file home and working at home. And somebody might kind of have issue, or you may have cut out some of the audio that somebody maybe wanted. So what I've got is a folder where I keep the original files, and then I edit the file further and save another copy in Audacity. Now Audacity also creates a project file. Now project files are really large, so I suggest you don't actually save the project. This particular edit session took me about 10 minutes to do. Typically it's probably going to take you twice as long or even more the first time you do this. It's not that much of a loss compared to the size of these files. The save files are really large. You don't really want to save your project if you don't really want to be backing up lots of other files. So that's working with files. So let's get started. So the first thing that we do here is to trim away the start and the end of the recorded clip. So you select the audio by dragging the mouse, and this is the bit that's probably going to slow you down the most, because you're going to have to use the zoom or magnifying glass to zoom in and zoom out quite a lot while you're doing this. This is the area that you're probably going to speed up the most in as you go. One of the tricks when cutting or clipping audio out is to make sure that the start and end of where you remove the audio has no sound. So you want to wait until you've got your mouse over a bit where there isn't actually any waveform. Alternately, if there is something there at the point where you want to cut out, what you should use is a fade in and a fade out. Typically you're going to do this if there's quite a lot of background noise just before somebody starts to speak. So what you'll do is you'll set your cut point to a second or two before they start speaking, cut it, and then do a fade in, or for the other direction, a fade out. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to basically use the same technique, and you want to remove all the bits of audio that you don't want. Now, depending on whether the recording, the person doing the recording has silenced all of the singing, because you don't want that normally, or not, this job might be easier, it might be harder. They're not going to catch all of the singing, especially if you've got an organ, for example, but that is going to save you a bit of time if they do. Alright, so one of the other things that I'm going to show you as well is, once you've done all of these little trims, is you also want to run 3 basic filters. So the first filter that I run is to normalize the audio, which basically improves the DC, offsets the DC bias, gets the levels correct, and sorts out any kind of well, it makes it easier to start editing the file, so that you're not going to run into any problems with clipping in areas where the loudness is high. So that's the first filter that I ran. The next filter you want to run is the compressor. Now this is not like equalize at all. It basically adjusts the gain dynamically. The default settings are great for spoken audio, but as you can see, we've tweaked a little bit here, which is basically based on our room and the actual equipment that we're using to record for best effect. So the default settings will work. You want to run this filter before you actually start applying the amplify effect, because it's going to fix the gain and prevent any clipping. So before I get to the last filter that you want to run, I'm going to show you how you're going to trim out a little bit of the audio here. So you'll notice that as I select, I'm selecting a start and an end point that actually includes the prayer, which we want to cut out. But start and the end points actually lie when the audio is almost completely silent. If you don't do that, you're going to get clicks and pops. So the next filter is truncate silence, and it removes dramatic pauses like this one. And if you use more aggressive settings, then around about 0.8 seconds of pause, it'll sound like the person is not stopping between sentences at all. Excellent, so we're more than halfway now. So one of the things to remember is not to run any of the filters more than once. Obviously you can use amplify to amplify any quiet sections. But now you shouldn't have to run any other filters at all, no other messing. Remember, the idea of all of this is to do it as quickly as possible. So the last thing you do is you want to save your file. So you export the audio to MP3, just a bit more compressed than the WAV file or whatever format it was originally captured in. You want to add some MP3 tags at this point. Okay, last few tips. You can run the filters in any order, although it's generally a good idea to run the filters before you start doing any trimming. Truncate silence you want to leave right till the very end. Then when you're trimming, because we're only removing audio, you actually only need two hotkeys. Space bar will play, start playback, or stop playback. You need to do that because the other hotkey, delete, which you can be using a lot to remove sections, you can only use that when it's not actually playing back at the time. Okay, gotchas. So if you make a mistake, Control Z will undo the last action. The other thing that typically will make mistakes is when you're applying a filter, that the filter will apply to the selection only. If you wanted the filter to apply to the entire file, you need to either select the entire track or click anywhere in the empty area of the interface so that your selection is cancelled. So that's the easy way to make sure the filter runs on the entire file that you've got loaded. If you think I missed anything, please leave comments or questions at the bottom. And if you liked Audacity, if you use it, like so many other things, donate to support the developers. You will also find some details on exact Audacity settings in the notes just below this video. Thank you.